Greatness at track number 9. Stay on the right track and let your light shine. Step by step, reach for what's true. Track number 9, your greatness is waiting for you.
Good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome to track number 9. It's a beautiful Saturday out there. Man, I'm just so glad you guys are here. It's early. Grab your coffee, grab your tea. Whether you're tuning in from your cell phone, from your tablet, from your computer, I'm just glad you're here with us. Man, we have a wonderful, wonderful show. And I'm glad that we have these folks in here because the subject is timely. Let me put my phone on mute here. Excuse me, guys. I've been so busy texting and trying to get information and trying to make sure we deliver this information to you guys. Because again, track number 9, we are here to provide information that's going to be useful so that we can connect the dots and so that we can make sure that we're getting on the right track. And today, what we're going to be discussing is rent and rental issues and the issues that people are having with their landlords and the issues that people are having trying to become homeowners rather than renters. So we have some folks in the studio today that's going to help us get some insight on renting in Baltimore, the issues that people are having, and the work that they're doing to help people who are renters to make sure that they have rights, to make sure that the people who they're renting from are doing right by them. Baltimore has long been a city that kind of set the standard for slumlords, people who are renting to individuals who don't provide them with heat, people who are renting to with individuals that know that they may not have a lengthy work history. So when you rent from them, they know you don't really have any other choice. So they kind of treat you in a certain kind of way. So today in the studio, we have Detrice Dowridge, who is the executive director of Baltimore Renters United. Baltimore Renters United, and Heather Murphy. She's the lead organizer with Baltimore Renters United. Um, so much is happening in that space. One of the things that is kind of a growing concern to some folks is a bill that's HB 59. HB, that's House Bill 59, and it's actually a squatters bill. It's a bill that Delegate Addison intended to make sure that property owners can get squatters out of their property because they have this thing called squatters' rights, where people come into your property and if they get a piece of mail that they can actually take the property from them. And there are some advocates and some people that's squawking at the bill saying that this does not protect the renters. So today on track number 9, we are going to talk about renters' rights, renting in this country, and what it means at this point in our sojourn. So without further ado, I want to bring in the studio Detrice Doward and Heather Murphy, and they have so much information that they want to provide to you about renting in this country. Good morning.
Good
Good
morning.
morning. Thank you for
Good
having us.
morning. Good morning. I hope I did justice by trying to set the tone about
Yes.
rental issues. So I'm going to ask you first, Ms. Doward, exactly what do you do at Baltimore Renters United?
So yeah, our goal is to educate and organize tenants in addition to supporting them and challenging these very same systems that's supposed to protect them. And we just demand accountability. We support tenants and demand an accountability and transparency from these institutions. So, for example, we have some tenants nowadays who don't know that their rights exist because this is how I came into organizing. Someone came to my door and I didn't know we had all these tenant rights and things like that. And the thing is that we're seeing in the city is we do have some tenants' rights and protection, but it's not being heavily enforced like it should. So, for example, when tenants, like everybody tell tenants to report 311 conditions, unsafe conditions or issues with the landlord, reach out to 311. Or your landlord not doing right by you, or your landlord is not maintaining the property and continuing to neglect the property. Put your money into rent escrow. But we're seeing a large trend in finding that these very same systems are being used and weaponized against tenants just for making those complaints. And we're talking about tenants where you didn't inform the landlord, and things just build up where the landlord continuously neglect the property. Like, for example, like you put your money into escrow and you have a court date, the landlord will go and try to do repairs for you without notice in most cases, 24 hours before the court case. So just to put a Band-Aid on it, just to say, oh, we did something. And that's not always the case. So we're dealing with a lot of like if I wanted to be a slumlord and rent in Baltimore City, I would feel confident in doing that because it's no enforcement mechanisms. So we want to train, we want to help support tenants and building a tenant union, organizing against this and say, like, I don't care if you pay $1 in rent, you don't deserve to be living in horrible conditions because they're sleeping home, comfortable at night, while you're over here with no heat, no hot water, mold, lead, things like that.
Wow. Yeah, I recall recently on the news, they had a group of people in a community called Sharp Leadenhall. Sharp Leadenhall is a traditional. It's a matter of fact. We had Mr. Terrell Brooks on our show talking about the rich history, the African American history in Sharp Leadenhall, because down in that area, that's where they brought the slaves from where that water is, and they took them right up to the Sharp Leadenhall community. But of course, those folks thrived, they survived, and they did what they had to do to make sure that we are sitting here right now. But the tenants had the news in there, and it had so much mold in the building. I mean, it was horrible. The property owners were really failing the people. So that's an ongoing case that's actually in the news right now here in Baltimore. So it's pretty horrific. And I know that this issue touched a lot of people. I can remember as a kid here in Baltimore, the properties were so bad that people had to try to put tin up to try to keep the rats from coming in. Really, really bad. My great grandmother, she lived to be about maybe, I think my grandmother was like 89 or 90. And I remember going to her house. We was in Stockton Street off of Riggs Avenue in Sandtown, West Baltimore, and all in that area. It was just so many rats and everything. And I remember reading something online about how the community associations came about and how the Department of Housing would send these people around to check it. The film was like from 1930s or something like that. It was really old black and white film, but it was really interesting about it. And what people don't realize or understand is how much power the community associations have and why community associations were created. I'm just I don't know, I'm just hopeful that people will start going to their local community associations meetings and exercise their power to say and determine what our community should look like, especially when it comes to housing. There's always so much disinvestment in certain communities to let these houses constantly be filled with rats, to let the dumping continue to, and I'm not going to say to let it happen, because I do realize and understand that, some city officials are doing what they can, and elected officials, they're doing what they can. It also gets down to us and our mentality and how we're going to treat our own communities. I'm going to go to Heather now. Heather, as a lead organizer, what exactly do you do with Baltimore Renters United?
Thank you so much for asking me that question. I reach out to our tenants. I get the words, the verbiage from our tenants, from our members. We organize membership meetings. We organize canvassing. Also, the mundane things like emailing, um, and recording videos. We start tenant unions. It's it's almost a list of what I don't do. Um, but my goal honestly in this position is to build tenant power. We don't need a new thing. It's the same thing. So
Mhm.
we're looking forward to being able to just use the same things. It's the same principles. It's the same morals
Mm.
to do to continue to build the power, because one of the things that we're looking at is not probability of like, oh, are they going to let us do this, but the possibility of us doing it. So
Mm. Yeah. The possibility of us doing it, because again, people don't realize their power. Because again, I know so many people that face issues with their landlords,
mhm.
and they don't feel like they have power. And the other thing, like I had mentioned, is because people might not have good credit, because folks might be getting their income from Social Security, and even with that, they had tried to discriminate against people who had vouchers. They had to actually pass a law that says that it is illegal for you to ask a person, where are you getting your money from to pay your rent? That's none of your business.
Right.
As long as I pay my rent, because they were trying to say, if you have a Section 8 voucher, we don't want to rent to you. And that's illegal. So they actually had to pass a law that says that when you rent to somebody, you can no longer ask, where are you getting your income from? Is it from work? Is it from disability? Is it from Social Security? Is it from retirement? That's none of your business. And back to what I always say, like Malcolm X said, hey, brother Robert Winslow, that's my guy. That's my guy here, Mr. Winslow from Emerson Village. Very
Oh,
active in his community association in Rognell Heights. But
Awesome.
yeah, to say to people, oh, this you got to tell us where you get your money from. But as I was saying, when I talk about legislation and policies, I always think about Malcolm X, where he says, "It's the bullet or the ballot." You have to be able to be active in legislation, because it all leads back to you.
Hmm.
How you pay your rent, whether you put it in escrow, and how you're going to be treated as a renter. All of this stuff, we could have a trillion topics, and all of it is going to go back to policy.
Yep.
Because, like, even though people have rich people, so people are saying they're determining the outcome of what's going on. And I try to
Mhm.
share with people, and I'm gonna say it again, that on election day, you are Elon Musk, because Elon Musk gets one vote and you get one vote. That is the only day that you are just as rich as the richest person in the world. You are just as rich as they are, because no matter how much money they have, on election day, they get one vote.
Yep.
On election
Every
day,
time you say that,
one.
cracks me
So you
up.
are equal on election day. So you get, everybody should wear T-shirts that says, "Hey, on election day, I am Elon Musk," and we use his name because he is one of the most notable rich
Yeah.
people in the
Mhm.
world. You got Warren Buffett; he's just as
Right.
rich at Berkshire. But
One
yeah, that's
bucket.
the one day where people are being rich, are just as rich as their counterparts. But I want to reflect on one of those organizing efforts that myself, at the Maryland Justice Project, and I brought my guy Brock along, Baron Brock,
Yes.
that's my dude.
I love
He,
Baron.
yeah.
he's a good guy. But this one weekend, we decided that we were going to volunteer and knock on doors for Baltimore Renters United. Tell us, what was that? Refresh my memory. What were we doing on that particular Saturday?
That Saturday, we were door knocking and canvassing um, around uh, us being able to have a meeting with the people in the neighborhood. Um, we were at Henderson Webb, but we were notified by Dutch Village that the landlord there was paying people to leave. And if they weren't taking the money, they increased the rent. And we just wanted to let tenants know who was around the area that if they're doing this across the street, they're going to come to your street. And we have to be able to at least notify. And that's when we learned things like when one of the folks came outside, they were like, yo, they've already started increasing our rent. They've already started. And look, there's a hole in our, on the side of our building. We're dealing with all of these issues. And generally, people are comfortable telling me about their issues. They're not as comfortable telling their landlord, which is who needs to know. It's okay, for you to have a good landlord. I would hope that everybody has one day an experience of a good landlord. But when you have a trillion slumlords, it's very difficult to protect the good landlord, or to think that the good landlord is going to protect you from the slumlords. I think that a lot of the times we're caught up in a conundrum with the people that they're not worthy. You just said even if you're paying $1 for rent, you should still have a collective bargaining lease. You should still be able to say what's going to happen in your building or in your house or wherever you lay claims. Because if you start looking at yourself as a class, as a tenant class, you will see your power in it. We have a labor class, we have a workers class, we have all of these other classes. We need to enforce our tenant class and start not asking, can you please? But if you don't do it, trust that you're going to see about it or hear from us. And we're going to make you uncomfortable. And a lot of the times our landlords are calling our bluffs. Oh, well, why don't you just move? Monica, if they have such a bad time, they could just move. What a privileged way to say that you don't understand the people that we are serving. Because it's not get up and move. You don't have that option. And a lot of our tenants that are experiencing, when you are talking about how they're getting these tenants, they're going into the shelter. They're going into the neighborhood. They're enlisting other homeless people to get folks who would rather not be homeless. And the only thing that is keeping you from being homeless in some of these places like Harvey Johnson Towers is and literally you would rather sleep outside.
Yeah, and to that, to piggyback off of Heather, we dealing with landlords, slumlord, who are exploiting tenants, taking advantage of, some tenants barely have an education, don't know how to read their lease, don't know what they're signing. So if the landlord is putting something in front of you to say, sign this, you don't know if you're agreeing to a higher rent increase or not. You don't know if you're agreeing to let the slumlord have you continue to live in slum conditions. So they definitely prey on vulnerable tenants as well. We're talking about the disabled, the elderly, people with lack of education, lack of resources. And they really do get upset, which is the landlords where we come in to educate tenants. We had a landlord, the Harvey Johnson, that tried to crash a meeting, tried to tell us, well, no, tenants shouldn't call 311, they should call me. But sir, we are here because your tenants have been reaching out to you and letting you know about these conditions. And per the tenants, you say, well, you're poor. You shouldn't complain. You should be glad that you have a roof over your head.
Where were you living before?
Right.
Yeah, I've heard some of those more privileged people actually say that. Well, they should be fortunate. At least they have a roof over their head. And I think it is sad. And that Harvey Johnson building over East Baltimore, I've been hearing about that building too.
That's in Sandtown.
Oh, where's that one at?
It's right by the district that you represent, right there across the street from Future Care, in between.
Oh, that is the Harvey Johnson Tower. That's Mosier and Gilmore Street.
HJT LLC, also
that's Mosier and Gilmore Street. You know what that means? That just means I need to get into a higher office so I can do something. Since it's in my district. Yo, wow, a good friend of mine, Dana, just texted me and she said The same thing happened to her sister, that she complained that she had no heat and the landlord did not renew her lease for complaining.
Yep,
And
that's
now
exactly what
you kind
happens.
of, yeah, because when you think about it, and people's socioeconomic situation, everybody don't have $500 and $600 additional to pick up their furniture
Yep.
and to move,
Yep.
or to get a lease, or to get a notice that says you got to be out in 60 days, and you running around trying to figure out, what am I going to do with my furniture? Then it puts you in a bad situation, because now you got to put it in storage, and then you got to pay that. So the persons never really catch up and never really get their footing, if you will. But again, hey, Shantia Perry, good morning. Man, I have so many good
That's
folks here.
exactly what happens. And then imagine being formally incarcerated. We're letting folks out without the resource of even having housing, but we're selling them a dream that when they get out, they're going to get an ID. They're going to be able to have a place to live. And the only place that they're placing folks as housing is a treatment center. And you have to be able to qualify for Medicaid for that. And it's just, it's a cycle that we see, but it's not hard. We just gonna have to be able to take the risk. People are scared. Be scared. People are don't know what to do. You know what you should do? You gotta do something. You can't just be over here expecting, oh, I'm gonna tell Heather and hopefully, they can be able to get me with the lawyer. Let me tell you something. We have right counsel in Maryland, and it's a blessing. We'll shout out to all of the wonderful lawyers that's doing their jobs. One of the things that's unfortunate is that law doesn't protect you from retaliation. It's so hard for you to prove that you about to be retaliated, and that we don't have a good cause eviction, so they can evict you because they don't want you to be there. And another way that they evict you without having to evict you is increasing your rent, because we don't have a cap on rent. So you can go ahead and say, a lot of our tenants be like, they raised the rent $400. They can't do that. Baby, yes, they can. Welcome to Maryland.
Yeah, they I don't know. Miss Sarah texts me and she says we need more outreach organizations like Baltimore Renters United. She says the problem is the same bad actors and landlords. And what bothers me, I will say, is that these folks who have proven to be bad actors, the city still allow them to continue to rent to people. They still allow them to buy property and rent to these folks. And I'm like, come on, man.
And pay them. And get kickback. How much kickback do we get when you can barely get assistance for your rent? And that's treated like a liability. Let's really do some math here. If we got $75 billion for ICE, we got some money to do some rental assistance. If we got $869 million to build new jails and prisons, we got some money to be able to have housing how people want to be housed. We should not be over here playing ourselves small. A lot of folks are playing small because they're scared, and that fear tactic has made it easy for the enemy. What you gonna do? Your kids like to go to school here. It's manipulative. And as soon as we find out or remember and realize that it's nothing but manipulation, these folks barely know the law. That's why when you get in there and you start talking your talk like you know your rights, they're like, okay, just get the heck out. You know what I'm saying? Like, they just want to push you out so then they can be able to find that other person that's not going to say anything, that's in desperate need. Who's in desperate needs right now? Single mom. Who's in desperate need? People coming out of prison trying to look for a place. Oh, we accept people who have felon records. Oh, awesome. Great. This is going to be awesome. And then you get there and we're getting ready to pass a law about people can't call ICE on their tenants, but we ain't got no law that the landlord can't call the PO on you. We got so we're playing into some politics that we're not even really acknowledging how it is harmful for us, especially in Baltimore City, when we know that what our rates are for people who were formerly incarcerated. Let's stop playing. We know our
Mm,
rates of how many mamas is getting evicted tomorrow. I mean, on Monday. Like
mm,
we know
mm,
this. And a lot of folks just don't even show up to court. You don't show up to court, you're lost. You
mm,
miss all the shots that you don't take. You go there, you can be like, okay, I don't have no lawyer. I need to postpone. I need to do this. Like, get on their nerve. Show up. The court can't even handle how many cases they get. They got
mm,
300 cases. If every single tenant showed up for their eviction court, they wouldn't. They would have to postpone. They would have to. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and just What did they do the one time? They were like, everybody today.
Right.
Yes, you can have it refiled, but today we gonna go ahead and just let everybody out because we were so loud outside.
mm,
It takes us organizing with our neighbors. And a lot of times, Monica, people are focused on drug use, people are focused on ways to separate us, but we're already divided. We don't
mm,
need more division. A person
mhm,
that's on or that is using substances deserves housing. The mom with the kids deserves housing. The brother coming out of prison, the sister coming out of prison deserves housing, and they deserve to be able to have housing where they can take care of the property like it's their own. They have an
mm,
investment into it because they're being treated as a human.
mm,
You go to some of these places and it feels like you just walked into jail because you got to check in, you got to turn your ID in. You gotta, by that time, people walking past you, you go to your little point of no return, then you going in the elevator, and it's Wild Wild West in some of these buildings. And people
mm.
know that. People understand that. They have experience in it.
Yeah, I definitely can reflect on my own experience, and I can reflect on some of the women because I run the Maryland Justice Project, an organization that work with women and girls incarcerated and
Mhm.
formerly incarcerated. And what I have found is that people really don't understand. I had a mother that two kids, and she was working, and she ended up pregnant. She well not ended up. She was pregnant, and her pregnancy was high risk. And they told her, "You are not going to be able to leave this hospital until you have this baby." So that left her in the hospital for months,
Come on
months,
now.
and I think she had about 3 more months before she actually had the baby. So now she's stuck trying to figure out, I can't go to work. I
Yep.
don't have those savings. So
Yep.
how am I going to keep my place after I have this baby? By the time she had the baby, she would be homeless.
Yep.
And I thought,
Yeah.
wow, this is something. And then you have rent that's so high that people are working, but they can't really afford the rent. I was in a situation where when I first came home, I ended up getting my own place. And I was, the job that I was working, I was making $10 an hour, and I wasn't able to keep up with my bills. So what I would do is I would give them half the rent and half for the BGE. So this way I say, well, at least I can give them something. Well,
Right.
eventually it caught up with me, and I had an eviction notice for $2,600.
Come
I
on now.
went over to East Baltimore to Broadway Street to try to get some help. Hey, my man Jerome from Cambridge on. It's good to see you this morning, Jerome. But I went over there, and it was a lady over there named Miss Danica. And I will never forget, man, I was in there crying, and I say, Miss, please, can you please help me? She says, I had a dog. I have two now. She said, well, maybe if you get rid of that dog, let's look at your income and see how you spending your money. She told me, she says, well, maybe if you get rid of that dog, you might have more money. I said, baby, listen, you're gonna find me under the bridge. I am not giving up my animal and giving up my dog that I love because I knew that wouldn't have made a difference. I was only making $10 an hour. But
Exactly.
long story short, I told her, I said, I know that these services, eviction prevention, I said, I know that these services are, that thing make me want to cry, man. That lady saved my life. But I know that these services are for women with children and families. I'm a single person. I said, but I promise you, this is just a hiccup in my life.
Yeah.
If you help me, you will never see me again. You will never see me again. And I begged and I pleaded and I cried and I asked that lady for help. And she made sure that I had the money and I was able to pay my rent. And shortly after that, I received a voucher from a wonderful guy named Renard Brooks, who now works with the Department of Correction and Public Safety. He's assistant deputy of corrections. And
Mm,
I was able to get a voucher. And it took so much off of my shoulders. It took so
mhm.
much off of me that I didn't have to struggle and try to figure out
How you
how I
gonna
was
make
going, how I was going to pay my rent.
That's so
And
messed
I'm
up.
saying, like, because I earnestly didn't want to go back to selling drugs on the street. I didn't want to do those things. I wanted a good job. I wanted a
Mhm.
home. God bless me. I ended up finally with a decent job. I'm sitting in a home that I own. I am.
Yes.
I became a homeowner back in September, but I can say from my own experience that people want better for themselves, and the
Yep.
system that is in place makes it so difficult for
Yep.
people to just be housed, and it's not getting any better.
Yep.
Because I've been reading articles about a nation of renters. I believe they have a organization called Vanguard. They
Yep.
have an organization called BlackRock, and several other organizations are buying up all of the houses in the United States.
Blackstone.
What's called Blackstone.
Yes, ma'am.
Blackstone. They buying up all the houses in
Mhm.
the United States and in Canada so
Yep.
that we can become a nation of renters rather than achieving that so-called American dream of
Yep.
becoming a homeowner.
Yep.
And in the
Because they're
article,
landlord kingpins.
yeah,
That's a landlord kingpin tactic. That's how they get. That's how they make their money. They were calling black women welfare queens, and these
yeah.
welfare kingpins is making all the bread. And Monica, you should always be able to get rental assistance, whether you're single or not. And I seen something that a sister on here said. Because I love you, Monica. I won't let you do that. Kylie, I still can't find me a place to live after a record that I had. I've been exploited on so bad where they've been like, you got a record, you got to pay this extra money. No, you don't. That's an exploitation tactic that they're doing. Literally, if you're looking at your applications and you're on the website and they say they don't accept felons, turn that into the Attorney General's office because that is actually discrimination, and it's an easy case for you to have every single person that's formerly incarcerated go ahead and get their application in for free.
Yeah.
Start using because they like to use us as if we're going to be powerless, and we're not. Nah, you're not going, and you don't have to go. You pay rental assistance when you paid your taxes on your $10 an hour. You paid that. If you was allowed to say where your tax dollars went, you're going to put your tax dollars with rental assistance. And people aren't just wanting to be renters. It's that we're taught that. And that's why early literacy is key. When you are housed, you are preventing violence. It's violence prevention. It's community control. All these words that they like to use, that's what it is. I'm sorry. I'm done. I love you.
Hey, it's all good. You fired up. Go ahead, Latrice.
Okay, yeah, because we like going off what you said earlier, Monica. Housing is connected to everything, and nobody should have to be in a situation where you're paying these high, ridiculous rent where you have to choose between am I going to pay my rent this month, or am I going to pay my BGE? I'm going to pay my medicine? I got childcare, I got transportation, and things like that. And I wanted to touch on and earlier what Heather said about the welfare kings. They use these public housing entities like HUD. Housing to get half of the rent, but then look down on tenants judging them. But if these places like HUD, HABC didn't exist, where would your other half of the money come from? And this is what I'm talking about when I said these entities in place that's supposed to protect tenants like HUD, HABC. You're continually paying the money to these slumlords to continue to treat tenants a certain way. And I wanted to I seen a comment one of your viewers said in the chat about training tenants. So this is what makes Brew unique about us empowering tenants, like organizing. Like, we don't do the work for you. We want to empower you to do, like, we want to educate you, because Heather and I keep our ear and foot to the ground on these housing laws, even sometimes going in spaces we don't sometimes want to be in, because we see the really disconnect on how, you know, these people are trying to use tenants as props to say, hey, come tell your story. I agree, storytelling is a powerful thing, but to us, it's a time and a place for it. But if you're not going to get that, like, support that tenant, like, you know, hey, I mean, hey, this tenant have an upcoming eviction case. They came out and told their story. What's up? And I get crickets. It's like, wow. But yeah, people shouldn't have to be making life decisions and then being looked down and talked down to as if, oh, it's your fault you in this situation. Do better and things like that. This is what we get. So yep. Yeah, but definitely we do train, people, like, empower and train people, give you the things that you need. And I want to say too, for people who feel like they don't know how to read and they don't understand, let us know, because we want to make sure the literature and things that we're giving you, that you understand it. Just let us know. It's no shame in it. We're here to, like, make sure that give you the things to need to support you and empowering yourself in your community.
Yeah, I'm actually looking for the renters legislation. I believe it's Delegate Janelle Wilkins from out of Montgomery County. I believe she has, what is it called?
Oh, I said she's a champion. She's a housing champion.
She has some legislation. I'm gonna go ahead and look that up. Yeah, because it helps people.
Just Cause?
Huh?
Did she back Just Cause?
I don't know. I'm trying to Google it now, but I do know that she has renters' rights legislation that keep people from being evicted for whatever reasons. You know what I mean? Now, and that's not to say, that's not to say that, what's it called? Just Cause?
They call it Just Cause, Good Cause. They switched the name, but it's Just Cause or Good Cause, one of them. Yeah.
Okay. Oh yeah. And Miss Sarah Matthews says that tenants are afraid, especially older adults living in these places. I know that
they're mixed population now. They're not even in your buildings. You don't know who you with, and then they put you over there in Park Heights, and they got you in this nice old building with no security. Let's be for real. You ask first, hey, I just want to make sure that I'm safe when I come into the building, and they act like that's a problem. You lucky to have a building to come into. No, you should be able to stand on it. And we don't take the fear away. The fear still stays. It's not, I don't have anything that's going to be magical for you to be able to not be in fear. All I'm going to ask you is, do you believe in the possibilities, or are you stuck in your probability of being able to do this? Because it's going to take you talking to your neighbors. It's going to take you talking to your work. See, Baron, I get that. You always challenge me on this, and I'm going to address this publicly. Just because people want to be capitalist ventures doesn't mean that folks don't deserve housing. And if that is the landlord's way of running a business, I'm concerned on what we are doing as the oh God, what do they call it? The consumer. As the consumer, if it does not fit the consumer, I will break your business. Okay, so just like that's what we do. We strike, right? We do these things, because if your business is not a benefit for me, then your house will be empty. You can charge what you want, but you'll have an empty house. So what is the greater good? Is it greater good for us to be able to have a house that you can't rent? Or is it better for us to work with our tenants to be able to keep that house, occupied, so that the money continues to come in? I understand the money game, but you're not going to keep running the money game on people as if they're worth less than money.
Yeah, I have to definitely agree with that. Like, people are buying properties and they're investing in the properties because they, trying to make money. That's their livelihood or whatever. But in Baltimore, there was a such thing, and in many cities across the nation, there was a such thing as rent control. And here in Baltimore and in Maryland, I believe rent control had a sunset, and the
Yeah,
sunset
1 year.
in
In the 1970s. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And I think it had a sunset, and nobody has brought it back in legislation, to my knowledge, to say that maybe we should put a cap on rent control and what a person should be able to have, because some of the rent is just unrealistic. Especially, like I said, man, when I first came home, I worked for Recreation and Parks. I worked at the pools. I made $10 an hour, and I was struggling to survive. I worked every day. I
Yep.
worked every day, and I paid my bills like they were supposed to be paid, but I just didn't make enough money to be able to afford my rent. And I know that there are many other people in the same situation where they working every day and trying to do their best, but they're not able to. And now that we have these people buying up all of the properties, one of the things they do is, and I had read it, is they have the rising mortgage rate. They make sure the mortgage is high. And
Yep.
then we have the high home prices, and they have limited inventory. So that stops people from being able to buy homes. And what I had read was renters households are growing 3 times faster than owners households. So they again have this whole plan to turn us into a nation of renters. And when you think about, as Brock was talking about the money, as an investor, you can invest in the stock market. It fluctuates, it go down. But when you have 1 million properties, this is money that you are going to get every single month. So in our mind, you'd be like, all right, he collected $2,000 if he got 10 properties. But imagine when you have 1 million properties and the amount of money. Hi, Nikita. It's good to
Yes,
see
Captain
you.
Rick. Captain Rick.
Yeah. So imagine what it is for investors, Blackstone and all of them, when in their portfolio, they're able to give their investors each month, they're making $20-30 million each. So they don't really care. But I'm glad that you guys are doing this work, and I'm hoping that that people will get in touch with you, because I know everybody knows somebody's having issues. Miss Matthews said the tenant association informed the landlord about what is happening in the building. There are still, Lord, she said there's still Uncle Toms that prevent progress. Any suggestions on how we stop the snitchers?
You build a super
I don't know. I don't know how you stop the snitches, man. They always been among us. But they say snitches get stitches.
Yeah,
we
but
don't
you
want to
gotta
give
build
out-
a super
We don't want to be
majority.
giving out stitches to nobody.
No,
Yeah.
but you can build a super majority, and you can control your bylaws. If there is something where you do not want it to be told, then you can go ahead and start doing like they do in legal, having non-disclosure agreements. There are things that we can utilize to stop the snitching. And if they are, then there's going to be other ways for us to be able to address the snitching, right? But one of the things is that we have such a mindset. We have a poor mindset. It doesn't even matter how much money you got in your bank account, because the mindset is poor. One of the things that we have to focus on is what we can do together that we can't do individually. There's some certain things that you just can't stop a snitch, yo. My cousin was snitching, so we just didn't let him out the door. Okay, you ain't gonna be able to tell him you can't come out. So you go about it your own means, the way that you need to do. But we have ways to help build super majorities in Baltimore City, and we need it from our row homes to our apartments to our buildings. We need to all come together and be able to be the solution. And they don't expect us to be. They know that people are messy. That's why politics don't really go into people.
Mm.
And I just wanted to name something that I heard you say earlier, Monica. Policies are great, but enforcement is better. And we
Mm.
got a lot of policies where we do not see any enforcement. And this was a wonderful idea, but if you can't use it, no problem, Sarah. And holla at me later. I got you. But if we're not using it, then what good is it?
Mm.
Yeah, and the thing about, I'm sorry, were you about to say something? I thought just
No, ma'am, I'm done. I'm gonna mute myself.
Oh, that's okay. And the thing about Sarah too about the snitches piece, it can be a possibility to be real that those people who are reporting to the landlord are getting incentives, are getting like kickbacks themselves because they like in organizing. Heather and I come across this all the time. You got so much people with this individual mindset of okay, what incentive can I do for me in the moment when it should be it's a collective thing because you all have this in common where you have a slumlord. When I first came into organizing, you had my slumlord who I was really who I organized against was really on the financial abuse side. Speaking of that, when you're talking about slumlords, it can include, let's just say if you don't really have condition issues, it can be that financial exploitative abuse as well. So
Mm.
it's just like the landlord at the time tried to get me not to organize, saying he was going to knock money off my rent and things like that, and trying to like beg me. And I wasn't going for it because if you was doing right, which in the first
Mm.
place, you wouldn't see, you wouldn't have to hear from us. So I just think getting people to say, okay, this incentive for you at the time may be good, but what is it going to get you in the long run? Nothing.
Nothing.
So you
And
might
they
as
gonna
well
feed it
organize with
at
your
us.
neighbors. Right.
They
Yeah.
gonna us all the way. They gonna trash feed you. They gonna amenity feed you. They gonna key feed you. They're going to now they're not gonna have the rent. Now you got okay. The rent was only 800, but you want your trash taken away from the building. All right, that's gonna be an extra 50. They're gonna feed us so that they can still get that large amount of rent and then be able to say to the judge, well, I had an affordable rent.
Mm.
But all the fees that you have to keep up with, you can't afford that.
Mm. Yeah, let me ask you guys this. As we wind down our time, I really appreciate you guys, especially on this issue, because like I said, I've been, I know what it's like renting in Baltimore. I know how hard it is to even economically be able to keep a roof over your head. And then in my building where I lived at, and I lived in this one building for 15 years and lived there. And the reason why I stayed is one, my dogs. I have two pit bulls, and they were refusing to rent to people who had pit bulls. And I love my dogs. They really friendly little chihuahuas. But I didn't want to move from there, and I don't like moving. So I stayed in this building for 15 years. And not only did I stay in the building for 15 years, at one point, the elevator was broke for almost 6 months. I lived all the way upstairs. I had a broken collarbone. I was trying to walk my dogs, and I myself was afraid to actually say something or report them to Department of Labor and license regulations that regulate them and whatnot. So I had been in a situation myself where I was kind of afraid to kind of report them. So I appreciate you guys, and I thank our Lord and Savior for giving me more courage to stand up for myself. I'm not the same person I was, 15 years ago or just yesterday. I'm changing every day for the good, and that's good for some people.
Yes, come on, Monica, with that good word. The word
Hey,
says be courageous.
yes, and to be courageous. But I wanted to switch just a little bit to see if you guys do anything or have any ideas about how people can get assistance when they have issues with their neighbors. I have a good friend. She's a pastor, and her neighbor is horrible. And it just so happened that her neighbor's brother is a judge. Her neighbor's brother is a judge. So every time she tries to get assistance, tried to get, partate on him so he can't come near her or whatever, then you know what I'm saying? She was actually told by a judge, well, I'm not going to be able to do anything to help you because of my colleague. I think that's horrible. What do you do when you have neighbors that are causing you harm? You're a renter, they a renter. What do you do when neighbors are causing you harm? Or do you rely on the person that you're renting from to try to help you to feel safe in your place in where you live at? Or how do you resolve that? Do you have any information on that?
So, go ahead.
I was going to let you go because I've been taking up most of this time. But if you were to pass it to me, I'm ready.
Pass the mic, right?
Yeah,
Go ahead.
I'm trying to go ahead. I'm gonna pass the mic to Heather this time. I may piggyback because it depends on, is it like a situation where when you say harm, just the like threatening, things like that. Ooh, okay.
Yeah, it's like threats. It's like flattening the tires, busting out windows. They unfortunately had an incident in West Baltimore where this guy's neighbors kept harassing him and kept doing things to him. And then the girl she went and got her uncle, she went and got her mother and some other people, and the man killed every one of them. This was in Baltimore City. It happened probably about a year or so ago. But this neighbor confrontation, man, how do I don't know if the people you rent from would be able to install cameras or if they have anything to do with that. Or
cameras ain't going to prevent you from having the crime happen. It just lets you have a screen of what happened while you was getting beat up.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Good morning, Amir. I see my man Amir Lewis is here. But because
we got to go back to elementary. We were taught conflict resolution in elementary, and I think that sometimes we will escalate things because we're afraid of being able to have a resolution. My first thing that I would suggest to the good sis is that, hey, try and see if you can have mediation with them. Try and see if you can be able to bring somebody else from the neighborhood so it won't look like you're bringing your people to gang up, right? You can be able to utilize an opportunity to have that conflict resolution. And if you do need to call in your landlord, make sure you keeping really good documentation. I didn't have to take this tire. I didn't took this picture. I didn't did this. Because if it does go into the court of law, exactly. I was just about to go into that, Coco. If we don't have that type of information, then we're opening up the case where people can lie on us. And then in Baltimore City, it's very easy to file a warrant and don't have a criminal record or be out here on parole or probation because now you got a sentence back on it. And but we have to have conflict resolution. That first thing I would do, I mean, it seems like this is already escalated, but if somebody was feeling that they were going into this situation, if you're that scared, go ahead and involve somebody that you consider safe. I'm not going to say the police, but involve somebody who can be a witness for you. And if it goes down, they got your back. We definitely need to be able, just like how the teacher did it. Hey, I'm about to take the students. We're going to be removed from the situation. We're going to talk about it. I want to hear your side. I want to hear your side. Okay, what can we do? What can we offer? And come down to that. A lot of folks want to wield their powerlessness by involving the popo, by involving their big brother that got a name in the street or whoever. And all it does is escalate it. When really we're trying to de-escalate this situation. And there's so much trauma in it because you're living here and now you feel unsafe. Now some of your things will cause you to do unwarranted issues. Oh, he looking at me. You see how he was looking at me? You can't control that brother's eyes.
Yeah.
That person's mouth. What you can do is write down 10 at 9:57 a.m. I heard derogatory statements at this time. So then when you do get a chance to talk to them, we have mediation services. Monica, let's bring somebody in for mediation. Let's go ahead. Like, we have our other options to take on it, and some things we need to expose. You are using and wielding a judge against me to benefit you. Oh, they need to be on the next track, number 9. And they need to be able to expose that situation, because one of the biggest things is we like to keep it very invisible, and nobody can address invisibility. But they can address it when it gets visible and gets more information, because the viewers are the experts. I mean, this telling us about somebody else's situation. So we can do that.
Yeah, I like the idea of mediation. We actually hoping to have Erica Bridgeford on the show soon to talk about mediation and what they do and how we as a community can start resolving our issues without having to call the police and without such violence and things towards each other. But, you know, as we kind of come into a close, I definitely know what it's like to not feel safe in your home. We had Delegate Malcolm Ruff on here, and he talked about himself mainly, but he was one of the ones that led the charge to sue the landlord because of what happened to the young lady in West Baltimore, where a guy, he was the maintenance person, and he ended up cutting her throat. He raped her, cut her throat, and, you know, tied him up and set the building on fire. And then he ended up, about a week or so later, his name is Jason. Thank God he's now in prison. But about a week or so later, the building that I said that I lived in for 15 years, he killed my neighbor.
Oh, man.
Her name was Parva LePere. And she was the nicest redhead girl on the planet. She was such a good human being, so kind, always spoke to you, had such a good spirit. And it scared me so bad. For I know at least 2 weeks, I had a whole butcher knife underneath of my pillow. I went to EAP. I went to employee assistance to try to get some help, to talk to somebody, to get some therapy, because it just really, it kind of messed me up. You know what I mean? And to this day, unfortunately, it's still not real security at 6 Franklin Street. And I think that one of the things that everybody's listening now, I think we not only consider how can we keep a roof over our head, how can we stop these folks from keep raising our rent, how can we stop the retaliation and people trying to push us out and doing things against us, but also how do we make the people who we rent to keep us safe? Because, I mean, this guy, man, he did no background check on this guy. He did absolutely nothing. You know what I mean? So he was held liable. And when incidents and things happen, they should get security cameras. The people who we rent from should be the ones to help keep us safe in our homes. The least place you can feel safe is in your homes. I remember back in the day, when they used to have incidents with people, they would drag them in their house, because they had laws of self-defense and everything. You punch somebody in the face, all you had to do was drag them in the house, and that's your domicile. And that's what, and you were able to fight that in court and stuff. So I'm hoping that we can get to a point where, one, people can be housed and not be judged because you got Section 8 or not. You know what I'm saying? You have some bad tenants. That is the God's heaven truth. You have tenants who are, you know, could be better. But sometimes they say that if you knew better, you would do better. Sometimes people don't know what being a good neighbor looks like. So we have to kind of get back to that whole idea of what does a good neighbor look like? Do it look like keep throwing my trash down and throwing my trash in this person's yard, not cleaning up my yard and everything? So I think it's a whole gamut of issues that we deal with when it comes to renters and
Yes.
and having rights, especially for formerly incarcerated people,
Yes.
especially for formerly incarcerated people and women. I see life through a woman's eyes. I can't help it. I know I have my man Baron here, brother Kareem is here, my man Ronnie Smith from out Harford County, he's here. These guys know how I get down. I love them dearly. But I see life through a woman's eyes, and I know that 70% of households in this city and in this state are headed by women. And when it comes to women that's formerly incarcerated, she has children. So she got to take care of these children, which is expensive, got to house them, clothe them. And then because she's formerly incarcerated, she got to make sure she get a good job. They discriminate there. So all of these things are kind of correlated. Thank you, Sister Darlene Kane, for
Hey,
being
darling.
Hey, Miss
here.
Darlene.
Monica Watkins is here. Miss Ardelia Wilson is here. Kylie Thomas. Man, I just have a great group of people that always come and join us on Saturdays, and I'm always trying to bring resolution to our issues so that we can get on track and be on track. It's track number 9. That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to get on the right track and be on the right track because that's what God wants for us. All of these systems that are in place to cause people to fail, they have nothing compared to what God can do. So I'm always rooted in God. I always say that there's no separation of church and state here. I talk about our Lord and Savior often. I will cry on this show because I know of a surety of His blessings and His mercy. So I always got to share that with my own housing issues. I was close to being under a bridge, very close, but thank God for people who helped me, and that's what we're going to do. We're going to help each other. Amen.
Yep.
Amen.
Amen.
Wonderful show.
Melinda, please send me this question. Like, can you send it to us? Because I would love to create a list of what it looks like to be a good neighbor.
Amen. Amen. Yeah, I actually saw that there was this piece of I seen somebody gave me a card, and I think it was Doc. His name is Doc Cheatham from West Baltimore. He used to work with NAACP and some other folks. He passes out this card, and it has from 1 to 20 of what it looks like to be a good neighbor. I think it's a really good idea to pass out those cards and to make sure that we are practicing that, being a good neighbor. So once again, thank you everybody. God willing, we'll be back again first thing 9 a.m. on Saturday mornings. Get your tea, get your coffee, bring your thoughts, participate, put your questions, your answers in the chat, and we'll be back. And I will keep everybody in prayer because just about everybody on here I know them personally. Hi, Beth, my good friend from Montgomery County, and they tuning in from all over California, Montgomery County, Harford County. This show is rooted in love, so out of love, people show up. So definitely have a very good day, guys.
You
And
too.
Thank you. And thanks again for having us.
ma'am.
We inspire greatness at track number 9. Stay on the right track and let your light shine. Step by step, reach for what's true. Track number 9, your greatness is waiting for you.
Hey, Mark, I'm having some trouble sending the show, so just bear with me, okay?
Okay.